What's going on?
Yo, not
There
much.
we go.
What's happening?
Not much, man. Let's get the show started. Well, guys, thank you and welcome to Must Love Wrestling, where Tyler and I are back together as he is back stateside. My God, Tyler, before we get started, why don't you tell us about your trip?
It was a good trip. Other than like I said before, who knew spending 18 hours in an airport was bad for your immune system? So from Thursday morning to early Saturday morning, I was up for about 42 hours. Um, and then Saturday I woke up with whatever the hell this is that
Yeah.
I'm still fighting.
Mm.
So other than that, it was a good time. Got to see some family. Possibly making, we'll see. Making some life changes, maybe.
Okay.
Had some discussions. But we'll see.
All right.
Um, Watched a little wrestling. I believe we conversated during Payback.
Yeah, we did. It was really good.
Because
We could definitely we could definitely
everyone
touch on that.
everyone in my house was in bed, so I watched that one. Uh, that's all I really saw while I was gone.
Well, did you happen to catch All In?
I have not yet. No. Everyone was still up for that, so I was visiting at my grandmother's. So, um,
Mhm.
unfortunately, didn't get a chance to catch that. I've heard nothing but great things.
Yeah, really good show.
Um, and yeah, and I also haven't seen. I saw most of Raw last night. That was the first wrestling I've seen since Payback.
Yeah. Well, let's jump right into Monday Night Raw. How about it? Let's get into it, and we could
All
save
right.
some wrestling talk for after. All right. So as my
Okay.
notes stated here, Raw opens up with main event Jay Uso. What did before we jump into it, what do you think about Jay jumping over to Monday Night Raw?
I really like it actually because I just think it adds some fresh angles for him. Plus, he can continue some stuff with Sammy and Kevin.
Mhm. Yeah, I
I just
agree.
think he's been on SmackDown forever, so I actually think it's a really interesting move. I'm curious to see who's going to go back. I don't think they've decided that yet, have they?
No, I mean
'Cause
all
they
all
said it doesn't
accounts
have
are
to be a
saying that
trade.
it's going to be Cody. Yeah.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
hmm Especially
Um,
since we're so close to WrestleMania season, because WrestleMania season kind of kicks off at Royal Rumble.
right, and if you really think about it, SmackDown doesn't have a ton of tippy top baby faces.
hmm
Like AJ's there, but AJ just seems like he's kind of there.
I mean,
Um,
he's definitely moving into the main event spot again, so we're getting close to that.
right, but does anyone really think he's going to beat Roman?
No, that's the problem, is because we know that the idea is to set up Roman for the future. You know, we kind of do that. But hey, before we
There's
get started talking about it, look ahead.
literally one guy in the company that I think might beat him, and that's Cody. So
Mhm. Well, if I could just take some time real quick, I thought this is the 22nd anniversary of 9/11 that Monday Night Raw was on. And I did do myself a favor and start with the Lillian Garcia national anthem that she sang right after the attacks happened. So before we jump right into Raw, why don't you, if you can, tell us like anything about what you remember from that day and what were your escapes when that happened?
yeah, so when it happened, I was in gym class. I was in Middletown area high school, and we didn't know anything about it. I didn't know anything about it until right around lunchtime. I would always spend it was they had what was called intensive days where you'd have like your classes would be twice as long, but you'd only have half of them.
Mhm.
They'd have 2 days throughout the cycle where you do that. And on lunch that on those days, because lunch was like an hour and 45 minutes, I would spend it in the foreign language planning room because my favorite teacher, Mrs. O'Neill, would hang out in there. So I hang out with her and just a couple other people from like her classes. And she's the one that told me about it, and like I didn't really gather the seriousness of it until she started to cry. And then I kind of like then it kind of clicked for me that, oh man, this is a huge deal. As far as did you say escapes?
Yeah, did you have an escape at the time? Was there something, because obviously wrestling was a big deal, and then we had like the World Series. So
I will never forget that World Series. That's one of the best that I've ever seen. I know you don't probably like the outcome, but as far as a competitive series with a bunch of classic games, that's probably, honestly, probably the last one I watched that attentively. Yeah. I don't know that I've watched one since then. Obviously, my team hasn't sniffed it, and I'm not a huge baseball fan. But yeah, that was great, and we had wrestling. That first weekend was tough, man, because like we didn't have anything. I mean, the NFL canceled their games, NASCAR canceled, MLB canceled. So it was tough. All we had was like basically we were like kind of alone with our thoughts.
Yeah.
I remember the only sport that actually went ahead was IndyCar, and they were racing over in Germany. I think that's probably why they went ahead, because they already had all their cars and everything over there. And then they had a tragic accident where one of the drivers lost their legs. So it was just the whole week, man, was just horrible.
Awful. Yeah.
Yeah. It was like it was cursed.
Yeah. It was rough. I got to be honest with you. When I was in the 3rd grade, my godparents came to visit, and I was with my dad at the time, and I was visiting him, and I remember that they took us to the World Trade Center, and I remember being super scared, like all the way in the top floor, not like the top that like Kevin McAllister is on in Home Alone Lost in New York, but like the last floor, that covered floor. And I remember being so afraid, them telling me like, oh, come put your forehead on the glass and look down. And I was like crawling on the floor. I was so scared because I was so high. And that was like my big memory. And I remember that specifically because I was around Christmas time, and I remember that I had just gotten my very first Power Ranger toy. They had these awesome Power Ranger toys, and I got the Red Ranger. And I just remember being super excited because I wanted the Green Ranger because he was my favorite, but it didn't matter because I got one. So I was just excited that I got one. But that morning, I remember the morning of 9/11, I remember not, like, just like you said, I remember not understanding what was happening the whole day. I remember walking to TV production class, and you know what I find really funny, that you were able to say Mrs. O'Neill. Like I'm able to recollect every single person that I interacted with that day, their names entirely. And I remember like this kid comes over and he tells me what happened, and I was like, "What are you talking about?" And our TV production teacher, which was actually the first person that actually ever taught me, like, like controversy creates cash type of thing. He didn't really say it in those words, but it was definitely like, this is money, like the Jerry Springer stuff, like Girls Gone Wild. And we went to the roof to film it, not knowing that it was a terrorist attack. And before I could hit record, the second plane hit. And I remember thinking to myself, like, wow. And Sal right away knew, like, let's go back downstairs. But for me, what really sticks out is I thought I had lost my dad that day. That was like a really big deal for me. And he actually like I didn't talk to him until like 11:30 that night. He was in New York City. They made him take all of the product in his trailer. You know how like when the DC trucks bring over the product to Giant? Like he was one of those truck drivers. And he had to drop all his product off at a random grocery store, a Pathmark, and he had to go pick up bodies and put them in the back of his truck and take them to the morgue. And that's
insane.
Yeah.
The crazy thing about that day is I don't know if you know this, but there was only one other murder in New York that day.
Really?
That's been reported, at least, and it was never solved.
Of course not. Unfortunately, that person will never get their due because of what happened.
Right. It's in a I read about it in a book about there's a guy who does what's it called, like crowdsource detecting, like citizen detective. And he has tried to solve it, but like has never been able to crack it.
Well, it'll probably be like Tupac or Biggie or Kurt Cobain. It'll never be solved.
Well, I think we all know who Cobain. But
yeah, we all know, but nobody wants to admit to it, and you get sued if you even insinuate that you know.
I'm not gonna say that name out loud. That's right up there with the guy from the horror movies whose name I don't like to say.
Well, I mean, I have a couple of other memories for the day, but I won't bore us like with that stuff on this podcast. I definitely want to talk about Monday Night Raw yesterday, and I definitely want to get back to wrestling because of.
Sure, can I? This is a little bit wrestling related. My first experience with the World Trade Center, the Twin Towers, I would have been about the same age as you were, third grade. We were driving down from Canada to go to Florida for vacation. It was me and my mom and dad, and my sister, her husband, and their two kids. We rented one of those huge vans.
Oh, nice.
And we were driving down, and my mom was like, "Do you want to see the Twin Towers?" Like, we were driving past it, like the New York skyline. We weren't like down there.
Yeah.
But like when she said the Twin Towers, I'm thinking like the tag team, and I'm like, "Yeah, I want to see them."
Yeah.
It would have been my 8th birthday.
That would have been nice.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, wrestling was a big escape at the time. Obviously, like Kurt Angle being like the American hero and things like that, and well, obviously having like larger than life characters with Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock and everybody like that. So let's jump right into Monday Night Raw and talk about the current characters in development. And so Jey Uso opens Monday Night Raw, and he's talking only to be interrupted by Kevin Owens, and pretty much it's just meat and potato stuff. KO comes out, insinuates he doesn't trust them. Jey Uso is trying to tell him he turned a new leaf, and before they get a chance to really get into it and possibly throw down, here come the Judgment Day. What is your thought about Jey being involved with the KO storyline and Sami Zayn with the Judgment Day? Do you like the inclusion of Jey Uso to that?
Yeah, I just think it makes the most sense, really. Because especially now that the Judgment Day are getting rubbed with the bloodline, it seems like.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense. I also, man, can I just say that I have literally never heard someone get booed that loud in my life.
Yeah. It's
I could not
great,
hear
man.
what he was saying. Obviously, speaking of
Dom.
And then as soon as we say to Mike, they stop.
Yeah, there was a lot of people talking on Twitter, talking about how that you could tell that they lowered his microphone on purpose, so that way like you can barely hear him over the crowd. And I was like, well, that's great, that's smart. So that means they're not piping in the noise; they just lowered his mic. That's phenomenal. Moving on from them, we have like Jey Uso and Kevin Owens attack the Judgment Day, and then we have a tag match, which is Finn Balor and Damian Priest, the tag team champions, versus Kevin Owens and Jey Uso. What a strange tag team, especially with all the history they have in the pack, because Jey is part of the reason why KO wasn't able to beat Roman Reigns. What a great story being told to us, man. Ultimately, the Judgment Day pick up the win, with Kevin Owens' knee injury thanks to Dom. And it's clear that Jey feels bad, but, before he gets a chance to say, I'm sorry, Kevin Owens walks off. So what do you think? Like, do you like the idea that they're going to continue to tease, like, this is a possible matchup for the future? Or do you think that eventually KO will just accept that Jey Uso is a good guy?
Yeah, I think eventually just accept him because I think Sammy will probably influence it, and this was a really good match. There were a lot of really good matches on the show.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we have the backstage segment with Kevin Owens as he limps towards the locker room. Jey Uso, like, he tries to apologize. Owens blows him off. We go to the, obviously he tells him to go to the locker room the Judgment Day locker room and dye his hair purple. I thought that was pretty funny by KO. He just continues to be hilarious. Um, right after that, we go to commercial break, and as we come back, we have a rematch of a couple of weeks ago where The Miz wrestles Akira Tozawa. I got to tell you, these two work really well together. This was a short match, but it was really good.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we know what the Miz can do, and I just think Tozawa is underrated and underutilized.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with you.
When he was on like 205 Live in the Cruiserweight tournament, we know that guy can go.
Yes, 100%. I mean, he is a former Cruiserweight champion as well, so.
Sure.
So after this match, we have a backstage segment, and it's Shayna Basler putting over Zoe Stark, only to be interrupted by Chelsea Green. And, you know, Chelsea's kind of like telling her that they're peers and kind of like chumming it up to them and stuff. As she's doing that, like Piper Niven comes out of nowhere and just grabs the title and pulls it off. So clearly we're hinting towards that tag match. What do you think about that addition? Zoe Stark and Shayna Basler as tag team versus the tag champs.
I think that should be pretty good. I also you've got to love the dynamic with Piper and Chelsea, where
Absolutely.
Chelsea's just like wants to team with anybody but Piper, and then Piper just shows up and like, it's mine.
Yeah. I love it. I love the dynamic of the two. I think it's the perfect it's the perfect yin and yang, because Chelsea is so like flamboyant and charismatic, and Piper's just like, I'm just gonna be this brute force that just makes you do what I want you to do. I don't care. You can be as loud as you want, but you're gonna follow my orders. And I just love that. I love that dynamic of the team.
Yeah, absolutely.
Are you ready for one of your favorite moments in professional wrestling, Tyler? Are you ready to talk about records?
I don't hate this one as much as I do most, but yeah.
Okay, all right. So we go to the ring to celebrate Gunther's brand new record as the longest reigning Intercontinental Champion of all time. And before we can really kick off, we have some nice pyro. There's some nice columns that, you know, come up on like a Titantron, but they're in the ring. He's interrupted by Chad Gable. So clearly this feud is not over. And this leads me to believe that Chad's going to be the guy to take the Intercontinental Championship off him. Would you agree, or do you think that they're just continuing the feud just for the sake of it?
I would have agreed until the end of this segment, and now I'm not so sure.
Okay. So you think Ciampa might have something to do with it?
Maybe. Yeah. I mean, I would love to see it. I mean, that's a guy that's, again, you want to talk about being underutilized and underappreciated. That's the guy right there.
No, I agree with you. I agree with you. Yeah, I mean, obviously, like Gunther gets in his face. He tells him whatever he's going to tell him, but then what he says next is what triggers Gable to lose his mind, and he calls him a bad father for bringing his daughters to the ring last week. And Chad Gable just nails him, and as they jump him, you know, Otis jumps in the ring, but the numbers are too much, and before you think of anything, here comes Tommaso Ciampa. What is that? What a weird, like, no story. He just comes out and now he just helps out Alpha Academy. I thought that was so strange. I mean, I'm glad to see Ciampa included in Monday Night Raw, but what a weird way to introduce him, right? I mean, honestly, I thought like Ciampa just comes out. He says he wants to seize the moment, and he says that Gable says he hates Imperium, and obviously there's a 6-man tag later where it's Gunther, Ciampa, and Otis. Gunther and Imperium versus Otis, Gable, and Ciampa. I mean, I think this is going to be a pretty good match. So,
yeah, for sure.
I mean, it's definitely going to be one of those nice things that we see. I'm definitely excited about this match as it happens later on. But what really intrigues me is before we can move on in the show, we have this weird moment with Austin Creed and Drew McIntyre. What did you think of the digs that Austin Creed was like poking at Drew? Did you like what he said? Did you think it added heat? Did you think it added to the story? What was your overall thoughts of the Austin Creed and Drew McIntyre segment?
I mean, I think it adds to the story. I think it adds to uh it plants some seeds. Like, is one or the other gonna turn?
Mm-hmm.
I like it. Keep me
Yeah, I
guessing.
agree. Yeah, I agree. I thought it was really telling the fact that he told Drew that he was jealous because Kofi had his moment in front of 80,000 people at WrestleMania and Drew had his moment in the COVID center. I thought that was super interesting, and I love the way that it was able to like trigger Drew McIntyre. And they had a really stellar match. I mean, this match itself I thought was banging. I mean, even even the even the match with the way the match ended, Drew McIntyre hitting him with the Claymore out of nowhere. I thought it was such a smart way to finish the match. It doesn't hurt Xavier Woods at all. It puts him in like the good
Right.
graces. Like I think it's pretty nice because hitting it out of nowhere is just really smart. Uh yeah, I mean not too much to this. We don't have any more else. We don't have like any Matt Riddle. We don't have any Kofi Kingston. It's just straight up Xavier versus Drew. From there,
Yeah,
we move
I'm
on
okay with
to
that.
yeah. From there, we move on to Cody Rhodes in the ring. And before Cody can even get us into anything, here comes Dominic Mysterio. Messing with Cody, smacking him with his tie. Just brilliant. I mean, just catching normal, like really good heat. And, obviously, JD McDonough wants to be included in the Judgment Day so bad that him and Dom jump Cody from behind. I mean, what do you think of this? Do you think that JD's going to join the Judgment Day? Do you think they'll finally let him in? Do you think it'll be somebody else? Do you think that they'll wind up just beating him down and he turns into a babyface? I mean, what's your overall thoughts of Cody, Dominic, and JD McDonough?
Yeah, I kind of think that's what ends up happening is that he gets even Finn turns on him and they beat him down and he becomes a babyface at
Mm,
this point. Um, it's just we've seen it so many times where people are trying to join the group or like get someone to team with them and they like pretend like they're going to and then um you know it turns into a beatdown.
mhm.
So we'll see though. I mean, just a lot of talent involved
Yeah,
in this segment.
agreed. I'm definitely a fan of JD McDonough. There's just something about him that just sticks out to me. I really like his work ethic. Clearly, Dominic is one of my favorite things on Monday Night Raw right now. Dom and the Judgment Day in its entirety, and I can't wait for Cody to get away from the Judgment Day. To be honest with you, I'm kind of bored with Cody and the Judgment Day together. I think they need to get away from each other, get something fresh and new.
Well, yeah, we've seen it how many times. Like, yeah,
Hmm.
why are you? I don't really understand even why he's feuding with them.
No, I have no idea. Makes zero sense to me, to be honest with you. But we
What
move
their
on
big
from there
meaning
to
is, like, other than that.
yeah, we move on from there to the next match of the evening, where Shayna Basler versus Chelsea Green. This match really doesn't I don't know how to describe it. It was just fine. I mean, they got
Mm,
what, maybe like 4 minutes,
yeah,
and then it just turns out to be like a tornado tag with Zoe Stark coming out, them just kind of barking orders at Piper to get out. I thought that was so weird. They stand up to Piper, they say, get out of the ring, and she just does it. I just thought, like, I don't understand a story being told, but sometimes that's a really
yeah,
good thing.
that doesn't make a lot of sense, but we'll see.
No, no, no. It's strange. All right, man. So one of my absolute favorite things of Monday Night Raw happens next. We have Shinsuke Nakamura and Seth Rollins in their new segment. And Tyler, what is your opinion before I jump into this? What is your opinion of this feud and the fact that it's going past their potential 5-star match that they had at Payback?
I think it's great that it's being continued. I love that Shin is getting some rub near the top of the card,
Yeah.
and I think it's deserved, and so I'm a fan.
Yeah, I mean, they're doing a really good job of pushing Seth Rollins' back injury, and Seth comes out and he kind of says some strange things about himself, that he's a manipulator. He's like the Messiah, and before he can kind of go into this, we have another vignette where Shinsuke Nakamura speaks in Japanese and there's subtitles, and he's holding a katana and he's in a dojo, and it's just absolutely brilliant. I loved the segment. I loved everything about it. I can't get enough of Shinsuke Nakamura right now. I've been very excited and very happy with what I've been seeing. What do you think?
Yeah, this is definitely like if they'd done this when they turned him heel, when he was feuding with AJ, if he'd been this heel instead of just someone who punches people in the balls, I mean, it might have really worked. Who was it? Someone said that he didn't have what it takes to be a top guy recently.
I think that was Vince. Oh, recently? I have no idea. I didn't even hear that.
It said like famous WWE names, says Shinsuke Nakamura, but it was like paywalled, so I couldn't read it. I was just wondering if it was one of the get off my lawn guys.
Like a Jim Cornette?
Yeah, Jim or your boy.
Yeah, my boy. Who's my boy? Eric?
Yeah, Easy.
I don't know. I'm sure we'll touch on CM Punk here in a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
let's finish up on Monday Night Raw. So obviously, Rollins wants the match immediately. This is the dynamic. This is what I think is selling the feud so well, is that Rollins wants this match and Shin won't give it to him. This has never been done before. I can't remember the last time that a champion wanted a challenger so bad and the challenger held all the cards. Can you honestly remember a time where that was the story being told to us? Where Shin pretty much, where he doesn't pretty much, he tells him that he has bad timing and he will take Rollins' title, but not today. So he just continues to make Rollins wait. What a great segment, man.
Yeah,
I loved it.
And it's really interesting because I don't know if you've heard this interview yet. Cody Rhodes was on the Dale Jr. download last week with Dale Earnhardt Jr.
No, I didn't. I'm going to listen to it after we get off here. It's on Peacock.
Yeah, I've downloaded the podcast. I'm listening to it on my drives home this week, and this is kind of what Cody describes as a I guess in the business they call it a no new information promo. Like they really didn't give us anything new. They didn't announce any stipulations. They didn't announce a match, whatever. But still, it really moved the story along and just made it even more compelling.
Yeah.
Apparently, that's generally supposed to be very hard to do when you're not giving. You're just coming out and talking about what's happened so far.
Yeah.
So it's very impressive. This is the term I learned last night.
Oh, well, nice. There you go. Look at you, 47 years old, and you got to learn a new phrase. That's pretty cool.
Did you say I was 47 years old?
Oh, I'm sorry, 37. The next match of the evening. Oh, okay. The next match of the evening is Alpha Academy and Tommaso Ciampa versus Imperium, and this is a pretty cut and dry match. Nothing too special. Tommaso Ciampa doesn't really look like he fits with this group, but I'm sure they'll make it work because they've made everything else work. Ultimately, Gable gets Vinci to tap out to the ankle lock. What? Anything to stick out to you about this match?
No, other than I really liked it. I guess maybe I liked it more than you did. I just thought it was it was a really fun dynamic.
Yeah, I thought it was good. I just think it's weird, like Ciampa being a part of this group. I guess for me, Ciampa's one of those guys that he's just a natural heel. I just can't see him as a baby face. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, he's only a baby when he's with Johnny.
Yeah, give him Goldie. Yeah. If he wins the Intercontinental Championship, I love that idea. If he wins the Intercontinental Championship next and he calls it Goldie, I feel like we might be in for another lengthy run.
I'm down.
Yeah.
I
Well,
love
on
Tommaso
to women
Ciampa ever
slapping
since.
women and meat slapping meat. We are on to the main event of the evening: Raquel Rodriguez versus Rhea Ripley. I thought this match was better than their payback match, man. This was
Holy shit,
really
this
good.
match was good.
Yeah, I
Yeah, I've
really
watched
enjoyed
it
this match.
twice.
Yeah, it is. It was a phenomenal match. I thought Rhea and Raquel, they are perfect for each other. That means that they've had 3 matches. Raquel winning the first one, Rhea winning the second one, and Rhea winning the third one. I don't know if it ends here, but ultimately Rhea cannot get Raquel down, and Raquel hits her one-arm powerbomb on Rhea Ripley on the apron, and before she can jump back in the ring and get the pin, Nia Jax returns. I mean, what? She returns and gives Rhea enough time to hit the pump handle slam and get the win. But before celebrating, Nia just beats the crap out of Rhea Ripley. I mean, there's a really great video that WWE released, and it is of Rhea selling her shock after her beatdown, and it is just Rhea is just so good at this. But what is your opinion of Nia Jax returning and Raw closing with Nia in the middle of the ring with her arms raised? I mean, what a way to end the Vince McMahon era.
Yeah. Yeah, that sums it up right there. I didn't wasn't excited to see this, but when it happened, it was played off really well.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I think Nia with someone like Rhea could be. It's intriguing. Like, I don't think she's necessarily a bad wrestler, other than the fact that she's been a little unsafe.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't think her matches per se every week were bad.
Mm-hmm.
They were just
I enjoyed some of her matches. Her match with Bayley in NXT, her match with Ronda Rousey at Money in the Bank, her match with Charlotte on SmackDown. I mean, Nia's actually given us some pretty solid. Her WrestleMania match with Alexa Bliss, I thought was pretty good too.
mhm.
I mean, let's be honest, she's definitely had some great moments. Because we have a wrestling podcast and we have to give like different perspectives. I was trying to figure out ways why this makes sense and why this is good for wrestling. And the only thing I thought to myself is the size. The fact that Rhea Ripley is the champion. She's the women's world champion on Monday Night Raw. And she's just bigger than everybody else. She's more imposing. Eventually, that's going to wear thin. It's going to be like a Kevin Nash being dominant or a Psycho Sid. Like, she's just trashing everybody that's so much smaller than her. Eventually, her doing these oversells for people to make them look good, it's just not going to be good for her character. But having somebody big like Indy Hartwell, having somebody big like Raquel Rodriguez, having somebody big like Nia Jax, I actually think it really helps Rhea. The only problem that I see is that Nia came off as a heel at the end of this segment, and Rhea's supposed to be the heel. So what's up with that?
Well, I mean, she came off as a heel because she also attacked Raquel, right? So, like,
Mm-hmm.
maybe she's just gonna be one that, like, she doesn't really pick a side. She just wants what she wants, and what she wants is the title.
Mm-hmm. I mean, we're not going to come on here. We're not going to talk about things that people are angry about. I've seen a lot of Twitter traffic about. I've seen a lot of Twitter traffic about Nia Jax's personal beliefs, and I'll be honest with you guys, I don't care. I don't care about stuff like that. I mean, I care about what she does in professional wrestling. I care about the fact that after all this time off in her training with Charlotte Flair, she landed an unsafe bonsai drop and potentially hurt Rhea Ripley at the end there. That's what I care about. Like, clean up your wrestling, your ring awareness. Don't drop people on the middle rope like she did Kairi Sane. There are 6 females that Nia Jax has hurt in her time in WWE. 6. All big name wrestlers with one superstar in Becky Lynch. I don't want Rhea Ripley to be next on that list, guys. So as long as Nia can clean that up, then we don't have to have another, Zelina. We don't have to have another Kyrie, another Charlotte, another Becky, another Ember Moon. We don't need to have some of these people that Nia's hurt in the past. Let's move forward. Hopefully she came back and you could tell she looks great. She's lost some weight. You know what I mean? She's always been a beautiful woman. So, and as far as in-ring performance, we know she's imposing. She's supposed to work big. She's supposed to work like an Umaga, like a heel Rikishi, like a Yoko. That's what she's supposed to work like. So, I'm excited for the potential of her and Rhea. I want to see that.
And can you just imagine when if Rhea suplexes her, like, it's gonna look cool.
Immediately that started circling everywhere because Rhea's she's actually hit her finish on her before when Rhea was a babyface. Yeah, but this is going to be different. Like, this is like Rhea's in a different league now, Well, guys, that about does it for our Monday Night Raw review. Now, Tyler and I are just going to talk about some stuff that we may have missed over the past couple weeks. So, yeah, Tyler, do you want to touch on the official merge of Endeavor and WWE and UFC today? What were your thoughts? Today they traded on the New York Stock Exchange. The bell went off, and now we know that we do know that nothing will change as far as on screen. It has been confirmed. It has been confirmed that there are no plans for massive changes to respective products. UFC and WWE. Dana White will still run day-to-day operations for the UFC, and Triple H will remain the head of creative for WWE. What's your thoughts on that?
I think it's good that they're leaving everything the same because like both companies have been successful. So why would you mess with it?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I'm gonna need Vince to shave that mustache.
You don't like his Gomez Adams mustache?
I do not. It's just creepy.
What? That's crazy, man. I think he looks good. He's an old man who's really trying to do like his extra, man. I mean, what do you want? What do you want him to do? I think it looks great.
Okay.
So,
yeah,
sorry about that. So I wanted to touch on this one comment made by Nick Khan today. I thought was pretty interesting, and I was hoping you'd give me some insight as to your thoughts. So Nick Khan, when asked today about the potential of CM Punk coming back to WWE, I read this a certain way, but I'm curious. Before I give you my answer, I want to hear yours. And his exact quote was, "Listen, we only have respect for Phil. We appreciate his run here. We appreciate what he did and tried to do with the UFC. Not many people can actually get in there and do what he did. So we have respect for Phil, and we wish him nothing but the best." What do you take away from hearing that?
Not interested.
Oh yeah, I completely agree.
Too much of a headache.
Yep. I thought the same exact thing. I thought to myself, wow, man, this is like an indictment. Like, CM Punk is gone. Like, he's not coming back to WWE. He might come back in the future, but he's not coming back now.
I mean, he did it to himself.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, I get that I get that things, make you mad or whatever, but you can't. It can't. Like, it was an every week thing almost.
Mm-hmm.
And like, they're not gonna. WWE is not gonna put up with that. So, and if they don't think he can behave, then like they're not. WWE's not gonna make his own show for him.
Agreed.
Essentially, what happened.
Agreed. Well, so what a great segue, man. I'm so glad you brought that up. So the reports are coming everywhere today that Fox has decided to not renew their contract with SmackDown. So SmackDown will be moving over to either Disney Plus or Amazon Prime. What are your thoughts on the potential movement of WWE Friday Night SmackDown to a streaming service instead of being live on television?
I mean, I think that's how we'll consume everything here within a few years, so it's not surprising. I'm a little surprised that CW is not in the bidding for it. just because they have seemed like they've been trying to get into the sports game. They've got that Live Golf.
Mhm.
They also just purchased the rights for the entire NASCAR Xfinity series.
Oh wow.
Streaming and live TV. And I believe I heard earlier tonight that NFL Today is now going to air on there. So that's actually what I thought you were going to say when you were saying where it might go.
Mm.
It seems like they are trying to get their foot in the sports store.
Yeah.
And maybe they still will, but that's interesting. Obviously,
Yeah.
Disney and Amazon both have more money than God, so
Well, the thing about Disney that makes sense to me is because now that they're combined with UFC, UFC has a contract with ESPN, and ESPN is owned by Disney, so it makes sense to me.
yeah, yeah, and that maybe makes sense for WWE because again, God knows they love their mainstream attention, and maybe that'll get them on SportsCenter every once in a while.
I mean, they're on SportsCenter now. There's a segment carved out for wrestling now, so I guess
Are they
they
still
might have
doing
their
that?
own show. Every now and then, yeah, they still come on like First Take and sit down with Stephen A.
Okay.
Smith and
I know
Shannon
Paul
Sharp.
Heyman has been on a couple weeks ago.
Yeah,
Um,
so they have moments like that. I guess we'll just have to see what happens. I just thought it was really interesting because I thought they were making Fox a ton of money.
yeah.
I mean, that's crazy that people have bashed AEW, and now AEW is on Turner Broadcasting on the Turner Broadcasting System and TNT. They're going to be on nationally televised weekly, and WWE's only going to have USA, and then they're going to have to take what has become their A show and put it on a streaming service. I think it's super interesting.
I'm gonna pretend like I didn't hear that last part, but
You didn't?
that A show thing, I don't know what you're talking about there, but
That's what SmackDown is considered the A show now, with Roman Reigns being over there, with it being on Fox.
Roman Reigns is there like once every couple months.
Okay, but it's not me and you that say this; it's them, like that company themselves, and we're not going to gaslight them and tell them like, "Hey, no, you're wrong. You could tell us what you want, but here on our YouTube channel, we're right and you're stupid." Like they say that SmackDown's the A show, so that's what we have to say.
I think most fans probably still consider Raw to be the main flagship.
I don't know. I've always kind of looked at it like in the day, whatever show Stone Cold Steve Austin was on, that was the A show. And right now, the Roman's on SmackDown. That's kind of how I look at it. If John Cena was on SmackDown, that was the A show. He moved to Raw, that was the A show. That's why I think he was moved to Raw. I just don't think Raw's that interesting.
Really, I think Raw's been the best show on TV the last, I don't know, 6 months.
Yeah, but you and I are different. Like we go to the circus together. You know what I mean? Like we like different things. SmackDown has been more of a wrestling show, and Raw's been more of a entertainment.
Yeah.
So that's why you prefer Raw and I prefer SmackDown. That's
probably that's probably right.
Yeah, I mean, I'm more of a I want to see in-ring performance. I don't really care. Like I felt like Raw I really enjoyed Raw. I'm not going to say I didn't, but it was definitely packed with a lot of segments. And I was like, where's all the wrestling? Like we only got 5 matches in 3 hours. That's not a lot, especially since we get 10 matches in 3 hours at a pay-per-view. But
yeah, plus I think most of the guys I like are on Raw. So that maybe has something to do with it.
Well, that's what I mean. What happens when Cody goes over to SmackDown if that's what happens?
Well, it gives me a reason to watch it.
Yeah, I suppose you're right. I don't know. Either way, I think all 4 major shows in professional wrestling are great to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're spoiled at this point.
Yeah, no question. This is one of the best times to be a wrestling fan. There's nothing wrong. We just had a phenomenal pay-per-view weekend with Payback and All Out. Then we went into a great Monday Night Raw last week, a great Dynamite, a great Collision, a great SmackDown. Last week was like a wrestling fan's wet dream. It was amazing.
Right. I've got NXT on here in the background, and so far it's been pretty awesome too.
Yeah, I mean, don't we have Ilya Dragunov versus Wes Lee and Becky Lynch versus uh
Yeah,
Tiffany Stratton?
Dragunov versus Lee opened.
Oh, who won that match? Let's break the news here on our television, on our YouTube
Breaking
channel.
news at No Mercy. It'll be Ilya Dragunov versus Carmelo Hayes for the second PLE in a row.
Wow. Okay.
And they had a banger last time, so I'm excited to see it again.
Ooh, breaking
Wesson
news. Go ahead.
Wesson Dragunov tore it down.
Oh, I believe
Uh,
that. 100% believe that. So a Twitter troll went at Asuka today and she responded. Very interesting. Asuka tweeted out, "That question is rude and bullying." Talking about Nia Jax being back in professional wrestling. She said, "That question is rude and bullying. You're hurting her heart with this question. Are you really that person of your heart? If someone has not been directly harmed by her denies her, I will fight the society for her. If I'm criticized for it, I don't care." And then some random Twitter troll, I'm not going to give him the props on here, but he posted a photo of Kairi Sane and her like really bad injury from her match with Nia Jax. And the guy just said, "Look what she did to your friend Kairi." For Asuka to say, "Wrestlers fight knowing that there is a possibility of injury. Kairi doesn't blame anyone for her injuries. She's not stupid, but are you a victim?" It's interesting that we're less than 24 hours since the Nia Jax coming back to professional wrestling, and fans are not happy. And I know, like, Eric says controversy creates cash, but this can't be good for their first 24 hours that all anybody's talking about is this woman injuring people. Nobody even cares that of the potential of her and Rhea Ripley. That's all it's been. And I'm wondering, do you think that this would be enough backlash for them to pull her from TV again? Now that
no, I don't
wrestlers are
think so.
attacking fans or defending
No,
her against fans.
no, I don't think so. They're not typically um, quick to admit when they're, and I don't know that they're wrong here, but they're not quick to admit fault and do the mea culpa thing. So I don't think that they'll pull her off TV.
Yeah, I agree. I think they're kind of going to wait and see, but to see if she gets over with the fans, if she's able to gain some heat other than just people worried that she's going to hurt their favorite wrestlers. I mean, just pretty interesting to me, but I can't imagine now merging with the UFC now that UFC, their new middleweight champion, is super controversial. With some of his statements that he's made in the past, I can't imagine that they're just going to take the title off him for his controversy. They probably look at Nia Jax as the same way.
So who's this?
Sean Strickland beat Israel Adesanya by unanimous decision this weekend.
Oh, I thought he was really popular.
He is, because he's an everyday man, but he has a lot of controversial takes on homophobia, and he made some really terrible comments about Ronda Rousey, talking about her dad's suicide and things like that.
Yeah, that's just not cool.
Yeah, he's known for, as he says, he's just very blunt.
Okay, sure.
As I've learned growing up, that being blunt doesn't mean you're not an asshole.
Mm-hmm. Right. I was gonna say that's a nice way of saying you're an asshole, but sure.
Yeah. But yeah, I just think it's interesting that already people are jumping on this high horse that Nia is just going to hurt everybody. I thought that was pretty interesting to talk about here.
Yeah, to me, I think we have to give her a chance to see if she's gone out and gotten better and refined her craft. And I mean, obviously the leash should be short because it's happened in the past. So if you haven't improved, then you can go be with that other guy who Ooh, I don't know how to even describe him without saying his name.
Yeah.
Go hang out with Skip.
Yeah, go hang out with Skip. Yeah,
Skip
I mean,
Sheffield.
Skip Sheffield. Okay, that's right. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, obviously we've had there's been some pretty interesting like issues and stuff with her, like, in terms of just in-ring like awareness and presence and stuff, but we got to give her a chance. She's training with Charlotte Flair. I'm sure that's got to make some kind of improvement towards her in-ring ability. And she's lost a lot of weight, so I'm sure she could move around a little bit better. And we don't know if she's just going to be throwing people around. She could just be like, using the bonsai drop. That could be her new finisher. And she could be, using the leg drops and elbow drops. And it could be a lot of drop moves, a lot of back body drops instead of like press slams to the outside when she injured Zelina Vega. Like, instead of things like that, maybe she doesn't do Omos's finisher. That's the move she injured Kairi Sane with. Maybe they took certain moves out of her like repertoire that would help her.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. And the thing with like a bonsai drop, like it looks like it kills you, but like Brett basically says, like, if it's done right, you don't even feel it.
Yeah. That's actually a move I've taken from Magic. So I don't know if you know who Magic is, but he was an indie wrestler from back in the day. He wrestled with this kid, Big Suba. It was pretty cool. They were pretty cool people. Suba was in my training class. I believe Suba passed away. God rest his soul. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely one of those things where I just feel like it's way too early. I just want people to look at it like a storyline. Give it a chance to actually do something, guys. Like, give it a chance to actually, make
Give her a fair
something
shot
happen
in
for
it.
us. Mm-hmm.
And if nothing's changed, then we'll cut bait, and she'll be gone.
Yeah. Another thing I wanted to touch on, let's jump over to the other company. I wanted to talk about real life heat John Silver has received for attacking fans for not making enough money to watch his matches on pay-per-view. As someone who, I mean, you and I are trying to make this our living, and we both have like, manual labor jobs. It's pretty hard for us. We split all in together because we knew we couldn't like afford them both. So how did you feel about him jumping at a fan who was just saying it's hard to pay for back-to-back pay-per-views?
I want to be snarky and say that I was unaware he had pay-per-view matches, but
Well, that's funny because his snarkiness was all about that people pay to view his matches. That's how he separated it.
I'm fairly certain no one has ever paid to view a John Silver match other than like his mom.
Yeah.
But I was disappointed because he's always seemed like a pretty nice guy.
Mm-hmm.
And as the comment I made on your TikTok about it, he's
Yeah.
just not over enough to say that.
Agreed. Yeah, I feel like if this would have come from like an MJF, if it would have come from the Young Bucks, if it would have come from, I don't know, Christian, this is like
Right.
this fits them. But for someone who like, I don't really truly understand why he was the guy that made the comment, to be honest with you.
Right. If MJF or Christian says it, I'm just like,
yeah, absolutely. How about we talk about MJF and Adam Cole here? Do you feel like this tag team title reign is kind of ruining their like momentum for their match, or do you think that Samoa Joe was strategically inserted into MJF to keep Adam Cole and MJF apart from each other? What are your thoughts on this?
Wow. I think.
Sorry.
What?
Oh no, I thought you said wow, like it was too much of a question. I was thinking like, well, you've been gone for a couple weeks. I've had these questions
No.
ready to go.
No. Wow. Like it's hard to compartmentalize my thoughts on this. Like, I just think they booked themselves into a corner and now they don't know what to do.
What can you elaborate on that? What do you mean by that?
Yeah, I think they got to this point with them being best friends or whatever, and now they don't want to pull the trigger because I don't think they want Adam Cole to be a heel. But if Max turns, then it just like it's not even. It's just a waste because like of course he would, of course he did.
Mm-hmm.
So I think like and I think the answer was to have Cole turn and just be this despicable. Like you take Max like trusting someone for the first time, and then like that person stabs him in the back. You're gonna look like the biggest heel in the business, and then MJF's gonna be the biggest babyface.
Yeah.
And you just did a Bret Austin double turn, and it's perfect. And they could have done it, and they just didn't. And it's almost like they had this idea, and they went so far. Like Eric always says, okay, but what happens next? It's almost like they didn't think of like what happens next.
Yeah.
Now MJF and Joe is fun, but it doesn't exactly progress anything.
No, I. So it's really funny. Someone, her name is Shayna on TikTok. She has a podcast called The Anti Wrestling Fan, and she actually she was arguing with some Twitter fans, and she said she was trying to remind people that long term storytelling and a segment that happened 10 years ago is not the same thing. So if two wrestlers happen to have a backstage segment and it doesn't lead to anything, and then 10 years later they never even talk about it, but then people try to draw comparisons like, oh yeah, but they had this segment backstage, so that's just long term booking. She was trying to explain that. I stitched into her to be funny, and I was like, and I posted the picture of MJF and CM and Samoa Joe,
Oh
and
yeah.
yeah, and I was like, I really want to see this cap off here. And I thought it was interesting because it worked. So I don't know. I just thought to myself, this is pretty interesting. So I'm pretty excited about the potential of this feud, and that I think I said this to you on the phone yesterday, but this is the best version of Samoa Joe in terms of being healthy in the ring in a long time. He hasn't been able to stay healthy in WWE, and I don't know if they have the you know like if their training staff is just too strict where the moment you get banged up they put you on the side, or I know there's been comments where people have alluded to that sometimes they just don't have anything for you, so they just keep you on like IR. So I think this is the best version of him that we got, and I just think this is a really great way for MJF to move forward. What do you think?
Has he mentioned it yet?
Yeah, they talked that was the last promo. He told him like the first thing he said after the shove and after they went at it, MJF tweeted and he said, and I quote, "I'm not that kid from Brooklyn. I'm not that kid from Brooklyn all those years ago, motherfucker." That was
Oh,
what
nice.
that's what he tweeted at him. And then,
I was gonna
you
say
know,
because I know he's brought it up in interviews and apparently they actually laugh about it.
yeah.
I was gonna say I wouldn't be surprised if they do a callback to that. I'd completely forgotten about it, but I've heard Max reference it in interviews, and like I said, I think I've heard that they actually laugh about it. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's a fun feud. It's just like kind of I don't know. It just seems like it takes away from
Adam Cole
where we
and
were.
MJF. So you
Yeah,
don't agree with what I said. You don't think that it actually helps just keep like separate them and keep them apart? You actually think that it hurts the feud?
sure, but what are we keeping them apart for?
I think you alluded to it perfectly. I think they didn't realize the type of baby faces these guys are going to be, you know? So I think that's pretty much it.
Okay, as long as we have a plan, I'm down.
Mhm.
I just didn't know like what are we working towards here?
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. All right. Well, why don't we jump into intermission quick, and then we'll come back and we'll touch on the potential. Me and Tyler have a pretty fun segment, Brian Danielson related for the next
Jeez.
half. I think you'll enjoy this, guys. But why don't we start with this day in wrestling history? How about this day in wrestling history? 24 years ago today, Sting beat Hulk Hogan to win his sixth and final WCW World Title at Fall Brawl 1999. You know, Tyler, this was supposed to be Sting becoming a heel. Do you remember this match?
I don't actually. I'd given up on WCW by then.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, in this match, Luger had been attacked and he was blaming Hulk Hogan. He comes out to the ring after some schmoz because Hogan could never lose clean. And as Hogan is sitting there in his yellow and red again, he looks at Sting, and Lex Luger throws Sting the bat. He hits Hogan. He incapacitates him, puts him in the Scorpion Deathlock, and then Hogan loses by pass out, and he loses the world title. Really interesting finish. Sting winds up forfeiting the title later on his refusal to wrestle Goldberg. All a part of a storyline, not him actually being, like Hogan at Bash at the Beach.
Self-preservation?
Yeah. So, my promo of the week, I think, is pretty good. It says, dreams made me realize that he didn't need these people for anything. And Daniel Bryan told him at Survivor Series he didn't need to beat Brock Lesnar to win. Daniel Bryan won by allowing Brock Lesnar to beat the weakness out of him. Daniel Bryan's dreams told him to allow Brock Lesnar to beat the weakness out of him. And there would be a new emergence after that match. And there has been, you see, the old Daniel Bryan. The Daniel Bryan that these people loved. That Daniel Bryan is dead. The Yes Movement is dead. And all that is left is the new Daniel Bryan, the WWE champion. And the only thing that matters is that you will never, ever give up on your dreams. Ever, ever again. I thought that was a good promo. I liked it.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed the Planet's Champion. It's one of my favorites.
Yeah, it was definitely a cool era. Doing something different with the hemp title.
Yeah, I've always wanted that title. Listen, guys, if I ever buy that title, we'll put a Patreon here. Help me get that title. I'll put it right there. I'll put that title right there. We can get Tyler a bunch of Bret Hart stuff, and he can put it up in his house because he loves Bret more than he loves Shawn.
Listen, I've got a match of the week.
Oh, okay. All right. Go ahead. That's good. I had one too, but go ahead.
Since it is close to the anniversary of 9/11, we'll go to the Kurt Angle Stone Cold Steve Austin match where Angle wins the title at the next pay-per-view.
Absolutely love it. Well, that's the perfect one right there. I'm not even going to try to add to that. That is absolutely perfect. I do have a trivia question for you.
All right.
In 2004, there were 2 title changes at the Unforgiven pay-per-view. The Intercontinental Championship and the World Heavyweight Championship. Can you name both matches and who won each title?
Unforgiven. So that's right after SummerSlam?
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
Okay, so Triple H beat Orton for the World Heavyweight.
Yes, sir. That is one.
Okay. Christian beat Jericho in a ladder match for the Intercontinental? Or it was the other way around?
It was the other way around, yes. My hint for you was going to be that the Intercontinental Championship at this time was vacant, and he beat him in a ladder match.
Okay.
Yes.
I just remember that match being a banger, but I couldn't remember who won.
Yes. All right, guys. Now that you've either listened to our intermission or you've gone to the bathroom, let's jump into the next segment. So, Tyler, it is being reported after the media scrum at All Out that this final run here, is going to be very Kobe Bryant. It's going to be very Derek Jeter. This is Daniel Bryan's swan song. He made it very clear his daughter turns 7 next year, and he promised his daughter he would be done full-time wrestling by 7 years old. So my question to you is, if for the first time ever we had a combination of like a bucket list matches, what are some matches that you want to see before Bryan retires? Mind you, Wrestle Dream has already been announced that the main event of the
Yes.
evening will be Bryan Danielson versus Will Ospreay. I mean, not Will Ospreay. That is definitely going to be one of them. Versus
Yeah.
Zack Sabre Jr. So, just give me 5 matches that you want to see Daniel Bryan have before he retires.
Okay.
Mhm.
Let's see.
We'll go
Didn't know
one
you were
after
asking
another.
this.
You give me one, and then I'll give you one.
Do I get a time machine as well?
Uh, we have a comment. A question. We have a comment. None in AEW. All right.
He's not
But
wrong.
yeah. No, it has to be wrestlers that he could work now. So I'm assuming. I'll be
Like
honest
no
with you.
Sean,
After the
no Sean, no Sean, no Brett, no Kurt.
Yeah, I don't think we're gonna be able to see those matches now.
So only people in AEW and New Japan, basically.
New Japan, GCW,
No
CZW,
WWE people.
no WWE people. No.
Okay. All right.
Oh, okay.
I've got
Obviously.
I've got one that I'd love to see one more time.
Okay. What's that?
And it was rumored to potentially happen at way back when, was rumored potentially for All In. Apparently this guy's cleared to go if he wants to. I'd love to see one more round with Nigel.
Yes, agree. That is the match that I absolutely feel like we need to see. It looks like Nigel is looking for a swan song as well, and he wants to wrap up his career against Bryan.
Oh, it would be so perfect. Next year at
Yes.
All In, they go out together.
Yes. I would absolutely love that. In terms of just pure storytelling, I feel like going back to the pure championship versus Ring of Honor World Championship, how Bryan was the longest reigning Ring of Honor World Champion until Nigel broke his record. I love that storytelling. I love that they've been digging at each other. Tyler, that's the perfect response. That was actually number 1 on my list. So I will start from scratch. One of the matches that I was dying to see for a very long time, and before Bryan Danielson officially signed with AEW, this wrestler actually came out and said he wanted his dream match is Daniel Bryan or Bryan Danielson, and that is Shibata. I want to see Shibata versus Bryan Danielson. What they've been able to overcome with the brain injury, the neck injury, and been able to go back to being just as good, if not better, than they've ever been. I absolutely want to see this match. What do you think about Shibata, the potential of Shibata versus Bryan Danielson?
Absolutely, I love it. Is Shibata still the pure champion?
Yes, sir, he is.
Okay, I haven't watched it in a while. But yeah, so I mean, there's always a possibility with those two companies working together.
Mm-hmm.
So sure, yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Okay. And are these all just matches that that we haven't seen?
No, they can be
Recently, or-
repeats. Yeah, they can be repeats if you think that he's worked someone really well and you want to see it again. It's that right now he's absolutely feuding with Ricky Starks. His intention is to get Ricky to the next level. So
Okay.
let's not put Ricky Starks in there. even though they
That's
did
cool.
get a 5-star match rating from literally everybody who ranks matches at All In. We were apparently wrong. They were considered the match of the night at All Out. I thought Orange Cassidy and Mox was the best match. I was wrong. I picked against Bryan and was wrong.
I'll leave that one to you because you already said it. So I'm gonna steal another one of your current faves. I'd love to see him against Swerve.
Oh, absolutely. I love it. I absolutely love it. The chat says Brian's last match against Nia. What a way to go out.
Well,
I mean, I think he's more interested in jobbing to Jade Cargill since he's taken it upon himself to help make her the best wrestler she could be. But yeah, as for Swerve is absolutely becoming one of my absolute faves. I love everything he does in professional wrestling. I think he's super underrated. I'm very excited because you've heard me talk on multiple occasions how much I love Hangman Adam Page. So seeing them two in a feud, this is kind of like it's fantasy booking for me. It's like fantasy wrestling instead of fantasy football.
I was excited to hear that as well.
Yeah. Another match that I want to see Bryan Danielson in because I need to see a winner. I need to see a finish, and that is Bryan Danielson versus Kenny Omega. I need this match to happen. Like, I want this to close a show. I mean, the way I feel about these two guys, I may not like United States Kenny as much as I like New Japan Kenny, but that match at Arthur Ashe Arena is my absolute favorite AEW match I've ever seen. And I know it's only for 4 years of this company, but in the 4 years, that's the match that sticks out to me the most. And I definitely want to see that match again.
Yep, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, if you're not going to take it, I'm just going to go ahead and say that I want to see him against Will Ospreay.
Yeah, 100%. And honestly, let's be a little transparent here. He actually, there was this great poll that two fans posted to see who's had better matches in AEW. Brian was winning the poll so far until Will Ospreay entered the chat, but it was a couple of matches, and it was Bryan Danielson and Kenny Omega. So the matches in question are who's had better matches, and here are the matches that are talked about. It's Brian Okada, Brian Ricky, Brian MJF, Bullet Club. The Elite versus the Blackpool Combat Club at Double or Nothing. Rush versus Bryan Danielson. Bryan Danielson versus Bandito. Bryan Danielson versus Tony Nese. Bryan Danielson versus Thatcher versus Takashita and versus Brian Cage. Those are considered Brian's best matches in AEW. And then Kenny Omega's was Blackpool Combat Club versus the Golden Elite versus Shibata or versus Takashita, I'm sorry, versus Will Ospreay versus Hijo del Vikingo versus Ospreay 2, the Elite versus Blackpool Combat Club. Funny that Brian's in two of these matches. The Death Triangle versus the Elite, his second match versus El Vikingo, his one-on-one cage match with Jon Moxley, and the Trios match against House of Black. They were very strategic in not putting their one-on-one match in here. But the person commented and said, who's had a better run in AEW? And Brian was leading like 60-40. And then Will Ospreay said, he said, I have banger after banger. And every time these guys have a 5-star match, they need to take 6 weeks off. So
I did see that.
Yeah. So I'm hoping that leads to something down the road. I absolutely love that. I love that idea. Brian versus Ric Flair. Well, I'm sure if anybody can get a good match out of Ric Flair, that would be a hell of a way to do it, especially since Ric Flair has real heat with Brian because he doesn't look at him as believable. He never got it. He's been very clear in saying he never understood the Bryan Danielson hype. He didn't understand why he was so popular. So, obviously, Ric Flair is entitled to his opinion, but, another match for me that I would absolutely love to see because I feel like these matches for me are going to be mostly They're going to be just heart picks, matches that I want to see that I've already seen once, but I would love to see again before Brian retires. So match number 1, a rematch of his, is I want to see him versus Kenta. I feel like Kenta versus
Oh yeah,
Brian would absolutely, the first match that they had together tore the house down in Ring of Honor, and I would love to see it one more time. So
for sure. I would like to see more of Kenta. Period. Like,
yeah,
it was unfortunate that his run in NXT was so injury riddled.
yeah,
Because I mean, some of the matches he had was great, but he just couldn't stay healthy.
yeah.
So I'd love to see more of him. Period. So I would like to see that match for sure.
Mhm.
Um, if we're gonna do another rematch, one more time with Hangman.
Yeah, that'd be great. I would love to see that. I feel like what we got to draw in the first one, and then we had
Like,
Hangman win the second one.
yeah,
I would
I think
love
they
to
went like
see
30
that.
minutes.
Yeah, that I think they work really well together. I obviously I'm a big fan of both guys. I would love for Brian to go out on his back. I don't know if this is the guy that he goes out on his back on, but I would love it. Um, obviously we feel very strongly here about Hangman Page and Brian Danielson, so that'd be a match that I would absolutely love to see. Another match that I would be really interested in watching that literally nobody talks about. I've never even heard these two like in the same sentence to work together, but since I'm becoming such a big fan of this guy, I feel like this would be like my way of stopping like rooting for Brian and just moving on to him. So I would love to see if Brian can squeeze some freshness out of Orange Cassidy.
Oh hell yes!
Yeah.
So
Yep.
is this the last one?
We have one more. We each have one more.
Okay, so I'm gonna cheat a little bit because they
Okay.
said people in AEW, New Japan, etc., etc. I'm gonna take someone who's rumored to potentially be gonna go to AEW.
Okay.
I would love to see Brian Danielson versus Adam Copeland.
Oh yeah. I feel like we were shortchanged. We never got that one-on-one feud, and I would love that to be like his swap. That would be great. I would love it if that's where he ended. Squeeze some freshness, lol. Apparently that was something that was said there. Yeah. My Orange Cassidy shirt is coming in the mail. I love that guy. I think he's amazing. I can't wait till he's the next world champion. Never too loyal to the WWE. Oh, the chat is saying never, never that Adam Copeland will not come to AEW. So we'll see.
I don't know. I honestly don't know. It's hard for me to picture it, but if he
Mhm.
did, I would. That's something I would love to see.
Yeah, yeah. So my final match, I don't know if this can happen. This is just because I remember their memorable cage match and I remember their feud. So if he's still working, I would love to see one more match with Brian Danielson and Homicide. That brings me back to back in the day, and I would
Yeah,
love
sure.
that. I'm a
I
massive
don't know if he's.
Homicide fan.
Yeah, I don't know if he's still working or not, but I mean, last I saw, dude could still go. So
Yeah, we could throw some honorable mentions out here, but these are the ones that I wanted to actually break down, like talk about. So
yeah, obviously, Zack Sabre Jr. is going to be amazing,
yeah,
but that's already announced. So
yeah, that's obviously announced, and clearly we would love to see him wrestle one more time with MJF. That'd be great. I'd love to see him wrestle Samoa Joe again. That would be amazing. Like we definitely want to see these matches. But before we sign off here, since we're already talking about it, I want to ask you, uh, being that we're never going to see Shawn Michaels versus Daniel Bryan or Bryan Danielson. That's a match that we're never going to get to see. We've already seen Bryan Danielson versus William Regal. Is there any match that you know has zero chance of happening that you would have potentially loved to have seen Bryan work?
Yeah, Bret Hart.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm so glad you said that because I was going to stick to WWF as well. I was going to stick to WWE, and I was actually going to say Kurt Angle. So I'm glad you said Bret Hart because quite
So,
possibly the two best in-ring performers ever. Or the three best, if you want to say, and obviously we already mentioned Shawn Michaels. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, there's obviously matches that we wish we could have seen, like Bryan versus Eddie. That would have been phenomenal.
oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean that would have been amazing. Bryan versus Owen would have been amazing. We clearly were not going to be able to see those matches. Nothing sticks out to me as much as Bryan versus Shawn, though. I feel like that just had its. I felt like that we could have got a real good lengthy feud out of that, and I'm just sad that WWE. Not that they missed a boat. I'm just sad that it took Bryan so long to move up in WWE, like in terms of his like status in the company, and that by the time he was up, like Shawn had already made his decision to go, like he was already gone. So it just sucks that we never got those matches.
I think Bryan versus Prime Austin would have been a hell of a feud.
Oh my God, yes, 100%. And just because The Rock broke up his wedding with AJ, I would have loved to seen The Rock and Bryan go at it. I think it would have been better than the Rumble match with CM Punk. I just feel like Rock worked technical wrestlers really, really well. His one-off match with Eddie Guerrero that's on both of their DVDs. His matches with Kurt Angle were amazing.
Yeah. The Kurt Angle match from No Way Out 2001 is unreal.
Yeah. I mean, they had to carry this old fuck with jeans on in their triple threat match. I mean, so
still one of the greatest triple threats of all time.
Oh my God, man! I could tell the chat is excited. Tyler's back. Shawn Michaels overrated. Oh my God. The chat is excited. You are back, man. They love you, man. They love you.
Yeah. I mean, you're allowed to be wrong. It's okay.
Absolutely.
Most of us go through every day of our life being wrong.
Yeah. And guys, just before you jump down our throats and you tell us like we didn't mention some of your favorites, Bryan's already worked these people. He's already worked Adam Cole. So if you're angry we didn't mention Adam Cole, he's already worked Adam Cole. They have a banger match.
That was on Dynamite, right?
That was on SmackDown.
They also had a match on Dynamite, I think.
Oh, there you go. So yeah, so we're good. They already had their match and stuff. We're good. I don't see any reason to have Bryan work a guy like Darby Allin.
No, I don't think it's a good fit.
No, in terms of significance to my life and my heart, I would love, even if it was a 5-minute match, I would love a Bryan Danielson versus Sting match just to say I got to watch them work. Bryan has already worked Brock Lesnar, so I got to see that match, and that is one of my favorite matches by the two of them. But I would love to see Bryan versus Sting just based on what, because of what they mean to me and what they've provided me in wrestling for the past 35 years of my life. Like 35 of my 39 years have been watching these two wrestlers work. So I would love to see that. Well, go ahead.
I would just really love to see just so we could see it one time come across the screen. Michael Hickenbottom is All Elite.
Oh my God. That would be amazing. Just go out there one time, super kick the Young Bucks and tell them this is how it's done, and then just leave. That would be great. Yeah.
Apparently they're really cool with one another. So.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Shawn Michaels
was really helpful to them when they were trying to get signed. So.
Okay.
I think they're all good.
Yeah. Obviously, the chat. Let's go over the matches that the chat said they wanted to see. Let's see what you think about that. So the chat actually said Roman Reigns one more time, CM Punk one more time, Seth Rollins one more time, Shinsuke Nakamura, and LA Knight. What do you think of these matches?
Yeah, I mean, I think for the most part we've seen them, but they've all been great. LA Knight is fine in the ring. I just don't know that that's something I'd put one of Bryan Danielson's last matches on
Mhm.
if it were me. I think he's perfectly fine. I think he's, I like the guy.
Yeah,
It's just not something I'm clamoring to see necessarily.
no. The matches that I feel like I absolutely need to see are Orange Cassidy versus Bryan, and I absolutely would love to see the rematch with Okada. Hopefully, nobody gets injured in this match. uh,
See, that's one
and
I think I'm good. I think I'm one and done good on that one, honestly.
it honestly, like I would disagree with you based on what they are, and I don't know if they could replicate what Kenny and Okada did, how they had that trilogy of phenomenal matches. But to me, I think this match was so good that I think it stands alone. It's one of those matches that I
Right.
think it just stands alone. Like,
Mm-hmm.
uh, that's kind of how I feel. Before we go, I wanted to ask you one question. What do you feel about the fact that there's no digital copies anymore? There's no DVDs of these like box sets anymore because like don't you feel like wrestling fans are missing those things? Like I miss those. I love the Chris Jericho
So,
DVDs and the,
so you can't get them anymore?
no, they don't have them anymore. Like I want new
Oh,
ones. You know what I mean? Like give me a
yeah.
new.
Every Tuesday, bro. That was I'd get paid and I'd go get the new whatever the new DVD was,
Yeah, absolutely.
or I'd go over to Movie Stop and get 4 or 5. I think they were like 3 for $10 at Movie Stop. I remember one
Yeah,
time I told my buddy Chuck, I was like, I haven't bought a WWE DVD in a while. And he's like, because you have them all.
we're millennials, bro. The chat says thanks to your generation for that. We're millennials, bro. We didn't take the DVD away. I worked at Blockbuster. I thought that was going to be my job till the day I retired, till the day I died. I wanted to work at Blockbuster the rest of my life. Most people wanted to be president. Most people wanted to be doctors, and I wanted to work at Blockbuster for the rest of my life. That was my
I've got
favorite job I ever have.
I got a stack of WWE DVDs in my living room. We
Yeah,
got
me too.
like Stone Cold Truth or something like that. I got the Eddie Guerrero
Yeah.
one. I got the Best of Nitro. I got the Starcade one.
Well, I have both Eddies, Lie, Cheat, and Steal, and Viva la Raza. I love them both. They're
Uh,
both good.
Okay, I
Uh,
have Viva La Raza.
yeah. The Yes Movement one, the CM Punk one. So I have the Stone Cold Truth, the Rock one,
I have
Bret Hart's.
the second Edge one I have here. The other one's at my parents'.
I have the Jericho one. I don't know which Edge one I have. I have Mr. Perfect's, Brian Pillman's. Yeah, we should break those down.
Both HBK ones. Well, both of the newer ones. I don't have from the vault.
Yeah. So, guys, we've missed a lot of time because Tyler was like visiting his family, is well deserved. He hasn't been to Canada in a couple years. But while Tyler was gone, I talked to you once about this, and let's run it by Tyler and see how he feels about it. So, Tyler, before Wrestle Dream, and we get to see the rematch between Bryan Danielson and Zack Sabre Jr., how would you feel about coming on the podcast, watching the match from our home, watching the original Ring of Honor match? And breaking down the match with me on our podcast here to get ready for Wrestle Dream.
Yeah, it sounds great.
Yeah, I think it's a really good idea because it's a match that people have been clamoring to see. I know we both really appreciate technical wrestling, especially once we're like, especially for you need to know that that's the type of style you're going to see. It's not going to be like that's going to be the whole kit and caboodle. Like it's not going to be an entire pay-per-view of Lance Storm versus Chris Benoit, but for the sake of the fact
Right.
like that this hasn't happened in so long, I think this match is worthy of a nice breakdown. And since we have a
Yeah.
rematch coming up, I think it's a really good idea.
Yeah, for sure. The most excited I've seen I've been to see a wrestler in person. Because I didn't know I was gonna see it was at the Ring of Honor taping I went to. Xavier Jr. defended the New Japan TV title, and I was like blown away that I was like in the same building with Xavier Jr.
Wow. Yeah, that would be cool. Yeah, I definitely want to touch more on that stuff. I definitely want to talk about my first match that I ever saw Bryan Danielson live. We can do that on next week's episode. So that way it'll give you time to go back and watch it. I think you can find it on YouTube, but it is a submission match. It was at Charity Hall in Bayonne, New Jersey, and it was Bryan Danielson versus Low-Ki. What a phenomenal match. The two of them were amazing performers. They obviously Brian still is. I don't know if Brandon still works, but if he does, I'm sure he's great. He's always been great. One of my favorites I've ever seen. Definitely, possibly my favorite indie wrestler ever, along with Trent Acid, who I don't really talk a lot about on this podcast, but yeah, Trent Acid was one of those guys I thought had potential to be like a massive star in the future. So
Yeah,
yeah, man. So that's been our podcast, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. We definitely missed you, Tyler. I'm glad you're back. And until next time, guys, we are out.
out. So I'm confused
Mhm.
because you said Brian versus Saber, and then you said something about a Loki match.